Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I'm going to share with you guys how a $1,000 a month investment into Bitcoin can help you retire or partially retire in approximately 2 years. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. $1,000 a month is a very steep investment. For a lot of us, $1,000 is the equivalent to investing in something like a retirement account, like a 401k or IRA. So investing $1,000 a month into an asset class that many of us watching this might not even know completely about is a very scary thought. But a lot of news happened in 2020 that's going to change your perspective on what Bitcoin truly is. And number two, guys, a lot of you guys might be thinking, wow, 2 years for even partial retirement is quite hard. For a lot of us that have watched a lot of early retirement videos from YouTube, most of these videos tell you guys how you can retire in 10 years. So 2 years sounds really impossible because for most of these videos, their investment strategy is to invest in things like real estate or stocks. Those are the top two investments for these early retirement videos. But I believe, guys, for the first time of our lives, guys, we have the opportunity of our lifetime, and that is Bitcoin. So I'm going to share with you guys in this video why I believe Bitcoin is the asset class of the decade and why I believe you guys should consider investing into Bitcoin. Now, before we get started, I would definitely appreciate it if you guys give me a thumbs up below. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. I'm trying to grow my channel. And also, if you're not subscribed already, please consider subscribing below. Trying to really hit 1,000 subscribers. I have my birthday coming up and Halloween, so 1,000 subscribers will be the best gift for me. But guys, let's get started. So we can't talk about Bitcoin without talking about the narrative of digital gold. So what is the narrative of digital gold? So for many of you guys that know, gold has been money for thousands and thousands of years now. Now, for a lot of us that may not be educated regarding this, many of us think the US dollar is money. Many of us think the British pound or the Australian dollars or the Canadian dollars or even the Filipino pesos or the Mexican pesos. We all think this is money. If you guys look in history, all fiat currencies, whether that be US, Mexico, Philippines, Canada, any country, guys, all fiat currency gets devalued over time. And really the only thing that doesn't get devalued is currencies like gold and silver. So let's look here, guys, at the purchasing power of the US dollar since 1950. So since 1950, the US dollar has lost 90% of its value, guys. So in terms of money, fiat currency like the US dollar is not money. Gold is money. Let's get back to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has this narrative now in 2020 that it is going to be the next digital gold, the next potentially digital reserve currency of the world. Back in 2012, this Bitcoin thing was basically for the nerds. People that held Bitcoin was for cyberpunks, and they honestly perceived Bitcoin as this thing that was traded in the dark web, the Silk Road, traded it for illegal things. So 2012 Bitcoin was very sketchy. Fast forward to 2016, people that bought Bitcoin was this like get rich quick scheme kind of people. They would advertise on YouTube, you should buy Bitcoin now and you'll be rich in 2 years. Now fast forward to 2020, the narrative for Bitcoin has changed, guys. In 2020, so many public companies are starting to buy Bitcoin with a perception that it is digital gold. Now, for any of you guys that have seen my last video, I shared with you guys the news that Square, which owns Cash App, they've took a lot of their cash reserves from their balance sheet and they invested the $50 million of their cash reserves into Bitcoin. Now, an even more impressive news is MicroStrategy, which is in the NASDAQ. They had $400 something million in cash in their balance sheet as of June 30, 2020. So in Q3 of 2020, they've invested 100% of their cash reserves and dumped it into Bitcoin. For a lot of you guys, you might be wondering, why did they dump their cash reserves into Bitcoin and not gold? But I believe, guys, Bitcoin has a much more asymmetrical upside compared to gold. Gold market cap is approximately $9 trillion right now. Bitcoin market cap is only $250 billion. So for gold's price to double, gold would have to go from a $9 trillion market cap to an $18 trillion market cap. That's a lot of money, guys. Imagine gold at an $18 trillion valuation. That's a lot. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. I truly believe gold will double in the next 5 or 10 years for sure. But for Bitcoin, guys, for Bitcoin to have the narrative of digital gold, only at $250 billion. $250 billion, guys. For Bitcoin to double, its market cap would be around $500 billion, nowhere even close to gold. the market cap of Bitcoin is 250 billion. If we were to 10x, which is a 1,000% return, the market cap would be at 2.5 trillion. So even with a 1,000% return, our market cap of Bitcoin is not even close to gold. I truly believe that one day Bitcoin and gold will be equal. I'm saying, guys, in terms of asymmetry, Bitcoin has the same risk as gold. You know, Bitcoin might drop 50%, gold might drop 50%. So in terms of risk to the downside, they have the same risk. But towards the upside though, Bitcoin has so much more upside, guys. So like Bitcoin could potentially yield a 1,000% return. But for gold, I truly can't imagine gold going up by 1,000% unless the US dollar just completely collapses and they put gold as the reserve currency of the world. That's the only way it'll happen. If that doesn't happen, I just can't see gold yielding 1,000%. Now with Bitcoin, the US dollar doesn't have to collapse, go to zero for Bitcoin to go 1,000% return. It can happen even if the US dollar survives. So that is why I believe that MicroStrategy and Square and other public companies chose to invest in Bitcoin rather than gold because number one, it has the digital reserve currency narrative. And number two, it has much more asymmetrical upside. Now, I don't want to bore you guys with the technology of Bitcoin, you know, proof of work, proof of stake, talk about the blockchain technology. Yeah, that's all cool and stuff. But if you guys want to learn about blockchain technology, you guys can watch other YouTubers for that. But I'm just going to share with you guys the very high level understanding of what Bitcoin is, all right? Gold bugs out there will disagree with me, but I'm a big Bitcoin believer. I love gold. I love the narrative of gold, but I believe that Bitcoin is so much more superior. Now, let's talk about the supply of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin will forever have only 21 million Bitcoins in circulation ever. Now, let's talk about mining, all right? So gold, every year, a certain amount of gold is mined every year. And every year, a certain amount of Bitcoin is mined every year. But the one major difference, guys, is that Bitcoin, every 4 years, the mining gets cut in half. The new supply of Bitcoin gets cut in half. Now, I don't want to bore you guys with macroeconomic supply and demand. I know that for a lot of us, that stuff is boring, but it is very imperative, guys, that we understand at least the basics of macroeconomic supply and demand if we want to understand what Bitcoin truly is. So I'll try to keep it as simple and as fun as possible for you guys. So let's talk about supply and demand, right, in terms of Bitcoin. So just quick lesson, there's two ways to increase the price of something, right, in terms of supply and demand. If we think about supply and demand, assuming supply is constant, the way to increase price is to increase demand, right? And then vice versa, assuming demand is constant, the way to increase price is to decrease the supply. All right, let's look at gold for a second, all right? The demand for gold year over year has been relatively increasing at a very constant rate, all right? But what causes the price of gold to increase is maybe miners stop producing gold. For example, for gold, maybe one year they produce 1,000 tons of gold. Then maybe the next year they produce 900 tons of gold. So in terms of gold mining, you can change the production of supply of gold year over year. If gold price is too low, miners might stop producing a lot of gold. So they basically are decreasing the supply of gold so that hopefully gold price can go up. And if gold price starts to skyrocket, like if we start seeing 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 gold, there's going to be an incentive for miners to start producing more gold, all right? So in terms of the supply of gold production every year, it can definitely change. So that is the main difference between gold and Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, guys, you can never change the supply of Bitcoin. You know, there's no way miners can just, you know, just like that produce more Bitcoin. Every 4 years, guys, the mining supply of Bitcoin gets cut in half every 4 years. Now, so far we've had 3 halvings. We call it halvings because the new supply gets cut in half. The mine supply gets cut in half. So if we look here, guys, let's look at the halving history. So the first halving back in 2012. So Bitcoin was created sometime in 2009. So between 2009 and 2012, the first halving, during that 4-period time frame, about that 4 million time frame, there's been 5.2 million that has been mined during that time frame. 2012 to the next halving in 2016, only 2.6 million Bitcoin have been mined during that time frame. Now fast forward to the most recent halving in May of 2020. So between 2016 and 2020, only 1.3 million Bitcoin have been mined in that time frame. So you can see a pattern, guys. Every 4 years, the new supply of Bitcoin gets cut in half. So in terms of manipulating the supply of Bitcoin, that's impossible, guys, because the Bitcoin program is written so that every 4 years, the supply gets cut in half. So in terms of the supply side, we already have the advantage. So that is why we see a massive exponential increase in price, guys, of Bitcoin. It's because every 4 years, the supply of Bitcoin gets cut in half. Now, on the demand side, for the first time in my life, guys, I've never seen an asset class where supply is decreasing as time goes on, and at the same time, demand is exponentially increasing at the same time. Now, I've already talked to you guys about so many public companies like MicroStrategy and Square buying Bitcoin as their reserve currency in their balance sheet, and I think it's only the beginning, guys. It's only 2020. I guarantee you guys, once the Bitcoin ETF comes out, now I truly believe the Bitcoin ETF will come out. It might take 1 or 2 more years. It might be 2021 or maybe even as late as 2022. But I think within 2 years, guys, we will see Bitcoin ETF. Now, what's so nice about that? Why am I so excited about a Bitcoin ETF? Because once a Bitcoin ETF passes, guys, once it passes, we will start to see Bitcoin in IRA accounts, all right? Where a lot of people, a lot of older people that don't want to invest in Bitcoin via Coinbase or brokers that they're not familiar with, we're going to see Bitcoin ETF and Fidelity in big name companies, guys, that will eventually be in people's retirement accounts. Right? I think that's going to happen within 1 or 2 years. So in terms of the narrative of Bitcoin demand, I believe that Bitcoin demand will exponentially increase between now and the next coming decade, this coming decade. Okay, guys, so enough of macroeconomics of Bitcoin. Let's actually dive into the numbers on why I'm so confident that Bitcoin can help you retire in 2 years. Let's look into the numbers. So in order to do this, guys, it's really good to look at Bitcoin history in terms of return on investment. Now, Bitcoin, as I told you, is surrounded by the halving because every 4 years, the supply gets cut in half. That's why price increases so much, because the supply gets cut in half and demand is increasing. So let's look at what happened in history. So in the first halving, guys, the first halving occurred on November 28, 2012. And the peak of when Bitcoin peaked occurred 1 year later on November 28, 2013. Now, since it's only 1 year, the total returns and the annualized returns are approximately the same. So in that time period, after the first halving, Bitcoin returned 6,731% returns, guys. Let's fast forward to the second halving. Now, the second halving occurred on July 9th of 2016, and it peaked most recently on December 11th, 2017. Now, the time period, instead of 1 year, it occurred in 1.5 years from when the halving occurred and when the peak of Bitcoin happened. So it was about 1.5 years versus 1 year on the previous halving. So during this 1.5 year time span, Bitcoin returned 2,200% return overall. An annualized return, Bitcoin had an annualized return of 902%. So guys, fast forward to now, 2020, the most recent halving of Bitcoin happened around May of 2020. And who knows, guys, I don't really know when Bitcoin will peak, but just taking into consideration lengthening cycles, because the first cycle happened in 1 year, second cycle happened in 1.5 years. So if we assume every single cycle Bitcoin extends its bull run by 50%, then that would mean that the next peak of Bitcoin will happen sometime in 2022. So if we do it exactly 50%, that would be sometime in August of 2022. But for me, I like to be very, very conservative. If it happens sooner, great, I get rich quicker. But I like to be very conservative, guys. So for me, I believe that Bitcoin will peak the end of 2022, December of 2022. So just to forecast returns, if you look at returns, guys, every cycle, the returns of Bitcoin gets marginally smaller. So the first cycle, the returns of Bitcoin was approximately 6,000%. Next cycle, the returns of Bitcoin was approximately 900%. Now, I believe in this cycle, I think a conservative return for Bitcoin would be 300%, guys. So I would use 300% as my conservative estimate of what Bitcoin will return between now and the end of 2022 annualized. If you dollar cost averaged into Bitcoin every single month between now and when Bitcoin peaks, I think that 300% is very, very realistic, guys. So let's actually look at the compound calculator and let's forecast how much a 300% return into Bitcoin will yield us, assuming we invested $1,000 a month into Bitcoin every single month. Let's plug that in the handy doodle compound calculator, guys. So let's assume we're starting from scratch, guys. And for a lot of us, we haven't even touched Bitcoin, for a lot of us watching this. So let's assume we have 0 Bitcoin, all right, and we invested $1,000 per month. Now, for a lot of you guys, $1,000 a month might seem unrealistic, but if you guys think about it, we live in an age right now where we get stimulus checks basically every year. Now, I believe until this pandemic, a $1,200 stimulus every single year doesn't sound impossible, guys. I truly believe between 2021 and 2022, we'll probably get 2 more stimulus checks. So that's $1,200 every single year, at least on an annual basis, at least. It might even be 2. Out of the $1,200 of that is given to you in free money. So if you take that on a monthly basis, that's only $900 of your own money that you would have to invest into Bitcoin in order to achieve these types of valuations. So anyway, guys, an annual investment of $12,000 into Bitcoin with an annualized return of 300% per year, that would yield, let's hit calculate, that would yield $240,000 in total portfolio, all right? And that's only assuming you have $12,000 into Bitcoin. Now, you might have other investments too, but let's just take Bitcoin, for example. That would $12,000, guys. In 2 years, that's only $24,000 of your own money, including stimulus checks. $24,000 turns into $240,000. And I think this is going to be an underestimate. I think 300% return into Bitcoin if you started right now, October 2020, and then finish your dollar cost average by next year. I think 300% is definitely, guys, an underestimate. All right, guys, so right here, I'm screen recording for you guys on what 240,000 would be. So at the end of the 2 years, your total portfolio would be $240,000, right, guys? And since you hold this, guys, you would have probably to pay long-term capital gains. So long-term capital gains, at least in the United States, you can adjust this wherever country you are, but in the US, long-term capital gains is 20%. So if you take 240,000 times 0.2, 20%, you would pay $48,000 in taxes, guys. So that would leave you with, so your net portfolio would be the net of this. So you take your $240,000 into Bitcoin minus your $48,000, that would leave you with $192,000 net after taxes, assuming you sold all of your Bitcoin. Now, a very conservative return, guys, in the market. I believe in real estate you can do this. If you're tired of this Bitcoin thing after it explodes, you can move your assets into real estate. And I think a conservative return on real estate is about 6%, guys. So that's a conservative return. So assuming you're $192,000, you invested all of that into real estate, earning about a 6% yield, and you make passive income on that. All right, that's going to give you a annual income of $11,520 gross. Now, why I love real estate so much is because it has so much tax incentives. So basically, every year as Americans, we have to pay taxes. But with all the tax incentives of real estate, especially with your income being this low at $11,520, your net might be really close to your gross. So in terms of $11,520 on a monthly basis, how much would that be monthly? Because $11,520 would be yearly. On a monthly basis, that would be about $960 on a monthly basis of gross. But again, because real estate has so much tax benefits, you would probably end up with about $900 a month net of passive income. Now, I know $900 a month is not a lot of money, guys. It's not a lot of money, especially if you live in the United States. I really want you guys to think outside of the box, guys. I know for a lot of us watching this, especially my US subscribers, a lot of us were probably born in the US. We might be born in first world countries like the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, and the idea of living in countries like the Philippines, like my country. It's my country, the Philippines, Southeast Asia, like Indonesia, Central America, like Mexico, South America, like Colombia. For a lot of us, that sounds very foreign to us, and it sounds very scary sometimes. We hear a lot of stories in the news on bad things happening in, Philippines and Colombia and Mexico, but I would really strongly suggest to you guys, for me, Bitcoin has really taught me to be a contrarian and to basically go for my dreams. That's what Bitcoin taught me. I know Bitcoin is a investment tool, but at the same time, it has taught me a lot of fundamental skills on just going for my dreams. That's what Bitcoin taught me. That's what being a contrarian taught me. So, don't let this views that the media always gives us on these countries being so bad. Don't let that from stopping you from achieving your dreams. Now, my dream, guys, my absolute dream is to become a full-time YouTuber. This kind of thing right here, right now, I make $0 from YouTube, but I really want to do this for a living. I don't care how long it takes. It might take me 5 years before I make decent income from this. But if it takes 5 years, so what? So be it. If it takes 10 years, whatever. I'm willing to keep making videos for you guys for as long as I can. All right, this is my dream. So, and Bitcoin will help me with that. Now, Bitcoin's not going to give me $60,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year of passive income, but with $1,000 a month of passive income, that is good enough for me. I can live in a country like the Philippines and Colombia and Indonesia and Mexico. I can even live in Eastern Europe. I love Eastern Europe, by the way. All of these countries, guys, are beautiful, beautiful countries that I've been to, most of them. I've been to Ukraine, the Philippines, Indonesia, Mexico. I've been to all of these countries, guys, and these are beautiful countries. And $1,000 a month is not an extravagant life. I'm not saying you're going to live where you can eat out and fine dining every single day, 2 times a day. No, it's not like that, guys. But $1,000 a month in these countries can just give you enough freedom to do whatever you want. Now, you may not want to be a YouTuber like me. Whatever you want to do, I know you guys have passion, and I know you guys have 9-to-5 jobs that you may not be fulfilled with, but Bitcoin is your opportunity. Bitcoin can help you achieve this very, very minimal target of $1,000 per month, and then you can transition from your 9-to-5 or your corporate gig into whatever you want, guys. So I hope you like watching this kind of content. Again, if you haven't already liked my video, I'd definitely appreciate it if you guys give me a like below. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. I'm trying to really hit partnership, guys, so I can finally do this for a living. And also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. All right, guys, thanks for watching this video. I know I'm going to try to keep this as short and sweet as possible, so I'll see you guys next time.